Hi. Okay, so I've gotten back into my sewing phase, and when I get back into my sewing phase, I want to make videos again to like document it, because I feel like I get better every time when really I just don't know what I'm doing all the time. So basically I got a gift. It was for my birthday. I got this sweater. I think it's alferic. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that, but it's this big red sweater and it has like an acid wash to it, and I like that. Like, I think it's like pretty, but when I put it on, it's like a smock. Like, it goes down to like above my knees. That's some people's thing. I don't like that as much. I like it when they're a little, not cropped, but when they're kind of perfectly fitting. And I like the idea of my clothes just fitting me the way I want them to fit. So I'm gonna try to edit this. So my plan is to take off the band at the bottom. I'm gonna separate that from the sweater, and then I'll also have to separate this pocket. You can't really see it because it's all so red, but also separate this pocket, and I'm gonna take both of those off. These are just, I come up with the blueprint in my head and I think it's gonna work, so I don't know why I shouldn't, but I'm gonna cut both of those off and then I'm gonna kind of crop it up. I think I'll just put it on and see the vibe of where I want to put it. I kind of want to put it right below my hips, because I don't like when sweaters are cropped, but I like it when they're at a good height, because I also want to take it in. So I want to sew the band in by a little bit so it's cropped and it kind of like goes in. It was the Yeezy sweaters, the Kanye sweaters that kind of did that, you know what I'm talking about, where they kind of like do that. I mean, you'll see what I mean. I don't know. So I'll show like it on real quick. Okay, it's not as big as like I was saying that it was, just for dramatic effect. My knee is like right here. It's just like too big. I just don't feel like it does anything. You know what I mean? I just feel like it's too big and baggy for my style of what I like. I kind of explained it, but I'm just gonna take it up to maybe around here, and then I kind of want to I want to cinch in the band so that the sweater like becomes a bulb in a sense. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off this band in the pocket. All right, this sweater shows up so crazy vibrant on the camera. I have it all laid out here, and then I took some, this is a different sketch that I did, but if you look at my little drawing here, I put it on and I took my tape measure. I measured down from like the tip of the shoulder to around where I would want it to be, and that sat at around 19 inches. And the 19 inches is specifically at this part right here. I'm not including the sweatband because this is always gonna stay true. I'm just looking at how much to crop this, like the actual sweater. So I measured down to here, and I kind of measured where I would want it to be, and that was around 19 inches. The way I kind of do this thing when I'm doing like sewing alterations that I don't really know what I'm doing is I will measure how much, so I know that from the shoulder to where I want the waistband to start, I want that to be like 19 inches. I give myself another inch, so I'm gonna measure 20 inches, kind of just for leeway, for mistakes, also because this measurement is just not precise in any way whatsoever. So I always give an extra inch on whatever measurement I took just to make sure it's not too short, and because if it's too much, I can always take more off. It's harder to go back once you're too short on something. So right now my measurements are from shoulder to before the waistband is 20 inches, and my waistband measurement, because I'm going to take in the waistband to like cinch the sweater. The waistband I'm going to try to cut down to 36 inches. I don't know what it is right now, but I'm going to sew it down to 36 inches across, like all the way around circumference. So those are my two measurements that I'm going to alter. So I have to now go in with my little seam ripper and just go at it and separate all these pieces while not trying to damage the fabric. I started going at the sweater here. You can see the hole, so the band is separating from the sweater fabric itself. This little seam ripper is not enough for the might that is Againn's stitching, so I'm gonna just go in with my fabric scissors. It might sacrifice more fabric, like in the process, like I might lose some because I might actually start cutting the fabric, but I kind of just want to get through this faster. Kind of go along this like seam that marries these two pieces. You can see it on this side. This is where it's sewed together here. I'm just gonna cut along that seam to separate the two. All right, it truly did not take that long, but I disconnected everything. So the waistband, disconnected it, and the pocket I also took off. And the reason I took off the pocket is because I'm gonna be cropping it and I didn't want to lose pocket in the process. So when I crop it, I'll just move this up and then re-sew it back on. So now what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be cropping this sweater. I'm gonna take my measuring tape. I'm gonna be measuring from the shoulder down to where it is here. And I know that I want this to be around 20 inches, like this, that's stretch. And I know from my previous measurements that I want this shoulder to this part, now that the sweatpant's gone, to be around 20 inches. So I'm gonna measure what the 20 inches is on both sides, make sure it's straight and even, and then I'm gonna cut off however many inches. Okay, voiceover more here. Kind of going into this blind, I don't really remember what I did. So I'm just gonna lay it out. You can see where the pocket was, based on where the acid wash ends. So I'm gonna be measuring from the, like I said, I'm measuring from the top of the shoulder to the 20-inch mark with my measuring tape, and then I will cut that much off. So I'm gonna go on either shoulder here and measure 20 inches. It's not exact, but it's not really woodworking, so I'm not too, like, it's fabric, it's a lot more forgiving. So I'm just drawing a straight line, as straight as I think it is, at the 20-inch mark, and then I'm gonna cut both front and back side off with my rotary cutter, I think that's what it's called. You can't really see what I'm doing. I'm not that good at recording these kind of things. So just bear with me. This blade is also so dull, so I had to go over it a few times, but yeah, I'm just gonna cut that off so it's cropped to the exact length that I want it. Okay, now that it's cropped, I'm gonna go in with my measuring tape and try to cinch in the waistband. So I'm measuring what it is right now, and it's around 46 inches. And what I measured around my waist, I wanted it to sit around 36 inches. So to try to make this as seamless as possible, I'm going to open the sweatband up actually, because at least the one that this was, you can see, I'll open it up in a sec. This is how it was sewed together. So it was sewn together from the inside and then it was flipped inside out. So I'm going to cut that open and then cut off around 10 inches to get to the 36 mark in length. Because this is essentially like, when it's all sewed together, it's like the circumference, you know, so I'm gonna cut it down to 36 inches. And then once it's cut, I'm gonna flip it back out, inside out, and I'm gonna sew those two pieces together, right side of the fabric facing each other, so that when you flip it back to the regular position, I guess, it's like seamless, like it goes together flawlessly. You'll kind of see. So I'm putting the two pieces of fabric, it's inside out right now, so it's flush there, and I'm gonna take it to the sewing machine, and I'm doing something unprecedented here. I'm actually switching the color of the thread to try to match my project. I never do this, and then all of like my shirts have weird threads on them when I try to fix them with things, so I'm actually switching the color this time. So I'm just starting the machine. Alright, now I'm gonna go in, it's flush against each other, and I'm just gonna do, I think I just did 2 like straight stitches, like just a single stitch. I did it twice over, just because I didn't want it to break. So there's a stitch, and so when you flip it back over, that's the side that everyone's gonna see, and it's flawless on that side. And so now I can fold it all back in on itself, and you won't be able to see the seam. Well, you can see the seam, but you won't be able to see the stitching, which is really nice. It'll be protected and things once I sew it back into the sweater. It's just like nothing ever happened. Okay, now that I have that, I'm gonna pull that sweater back out. So you kind of can see how big the sweater is versus how small the band is. So I'm gonna go in and pleat it, like you can kind of see how I'm folding it to bunch it up to fit the sweatband. So that's gonna be the last step there. I'm just kind of showing it before I sew the pocket on, but the next step is sewing the pocket on because I don't want to lose the pocket. So you can kind of see where the pocket was. So I'm gonna take the new pocket, not the same pocket, but I'm gonna try to line it up as best I can in the middle there. I could probably measure it and make it exact, but again, I don't really care that much. So ignore how messy my sewing table is. Oh my god. So I'm just gonna kind of go in and I'm putting the end of the pocket flush against the end of the sweater and I'm pinning it all in place. Pinning things is your friend because you can always pin it and then you can look at how it's gonna look once it's all sewn together. It makes it so much easier. So just pin everything. So I'm gonna be sewing the top of that pocket and the end of the pocket that's flush up against the cropped sweater. Don't sew the sides because you need to put your hands in the pocket. So I'm going to speed this up here, but I just want to show you the whole process. So I'm just going to go through and sew it, and I'm sewing exactly on where it was sewed before, so I can kind of see the indent of where the previous threads were, and I'm going to sew right where that was, just so it stays true to the original design. I don't want to stray too much, just because I'm trying to crop it and not rework the entire sweater. So now I'm going to go in on the top and sew that. And the original sweater, it was sewn twice, so there was 2 single stitches that sewed this pocket into place, so I'm going to do that as well to mimic the design and also just to fortify it in place, because it's a pocket. It's going to receive a lot of like stress with putting things in it, putting your like whatever. I don't want it to break, so you can see I did 1 stitch across there. None of the pins are in there now, and the thread matches. Yes, I'm going to thank myself for years to come. And if this keeps happening, my fucking like foot of the sewing machine keeps breaking off, and I kind of had to deal with that the entire time, but it's okay. So I sewed it twice, so you can kind of see the thread's a little darker than the fabric, so you can see the double stitching that I did there. And then at the very end, I stitched a perpendicular line at the very end of the 2 threads just to fortify it. Fortify, word of the day. Oh my god. Now I'm going to sew this little bit. It's up from the end of the pocket near to where you put your hands in. It just is, I'm just mimicking the design, so you can do this or not. But I'm not sewing all the way up because I want to be able to have a opening for your hands. And then again, I'm doing the perpendicular line at the very end of the 2 stitches just to make sure it all stays in place for as long as it can. So I'm just doing that to the other side as well. And then after this, the pocket will be fully sewn on, which is so exciting. So this is what the pocket looks like. It's, you can see the double stitch, you can see the perpendicular line that I stitched, and it's all flush up against each other, so that when I put it all in the sweatband, it'll pretty much be okay. So that's what it looks like. And it's a whole pocket. There's no holes or anything, which is really nice. I thought I was gonna make that mistake. So now the next challenge is to bunch the sweater into the sweatband to make it all fit. So I'm laying it all out, and the reason I put the pocket flush up against the end of the sweater is so that it all disappears into the sweatband when I sew it all together. So now that I'm sewing the sweatband on, I'm going to flip the sweater inside out. Similar idea with when I was sewing the band. You want to do it inside out so that when it's right side out, you won't see the seam. So I'm going to speed it up here, but here is me starting to pin it all together. I'm not going to pleat the pocket because I don't want the pocket to be pleated. I probably could have in hindsight, but it's fine. This is how I did it. So now I aligned everything. So you see when I flip it over, it all disappears into the band. So now I'm going to flip the sweater over. It's still inside out. And then I'm going to kind of disappear the sweatband into the sweater so I can line everything up. And the great thing about pinning is you can always flip the sweater back inside out just to see what it looks like. So you can kind of see how I'm pleating it here. If you've never done pleats, you can probably look at a video on how to actually do it because I'm showing it horribly here. But I'm taking my finger and essentially folding over a stretch of fabric and then pinning that into place. And you want to make sure when you pin it into place, and especially when you sew, that there's no like gaps in the fabric, I guess. Otherwise there's gonna be holes in your sweater. So you want to sew the entire pleat down into the band. And I'm kind of just doing this in groups all along just to try to make the sweater fit. I'm starting from the middle of the back of the sweater and working outwards right and left. You can kind of see this side a little bit better. I'm folding it in on itself and Some of the pleats are bigger than others, and it was just take it slow when you're sewing as to not break your machine. Alright, so it's all sewed, and like I said, you can always just like flip it out and see just to make sure it all works and all the right side of the fabric is correct and showing correctly. So that's me just checking there. And now, last part, I'm going to be taking it to the sewing machine. I literally check this like a million times before I sew because, you know, this is why pins are my friend, because I wouldn't be able to do any of this without them. So I'm just going to start at like a random part of the sweater, and I'm going to start sewing down. I'm going to do a straight stitch because those have never failed me in the past. So that's on the one setting there. And you can kind of see the pleat here, what I was talking about. But I'm just going to start sewing. And I ended up doing this twice. So I sewed it all the way around once, and then I went in again. Just because I want to make sure this works. So here is the sweater all fully sewn. So when I flip it over, you can see the pleats, and it's all seamless. I mean, you can see the seam, but you know what I mean? Like, it looks pretty. So that's the inside of the sweater. Okay guys, moment of truth. I just finished sewing, and it's inside out right now. There's the band, and this is the inside of the sweater because it's inside out, and you can see, you can't really because the red is so hard to see, but there's the pleats all around. Some of them are bigger than others, but it's okay, I think. So I ended up going around twice. You see that there, just to fortify it, I guess. So let's turn it inside out and see if it worked. It looks good. I mean, like, look on the outside. Like, this is what the pleats look like on the outside. So you can tell that they're pleats, but it bunches it. There's the front of the sweater. And then that's the back of the sweater. So you can see it just gets kind of baggy. Let me put it on. All right, so we remember what it was before. Yes, I love it. I probably could have pleated a bit in the front because it looks really, I didn't want to pleat the pocket. The pocket kind of takes up the entirety of the front. It looks a little funny, but I think it's okay. And the pocket's fully functional. There's no hole in the pocket, which is really nice because I made sure to extra sew. But like, because it's super baggy, but it's like comfortable. I love that. You see the pleats in the back? How they kind of bunch? I might have cropped it a little too much. I preferred to put it like maybe a touch lower. That's always why I give myself an extra inch from what I measured. I love it. I love how this fits way more, especially with like these baggy jeans that I'm wearing. You can see all around the edges here. You see the pleats, but it goes kind of just seamlessly into the band as I sewed everything inside out. Pockets moved up, and it just fits so much better. That's it, that's the end of my video. I just wanted to document me sewing this because I never document my sewing things. It's not really a tutorial, like I don't think I'm really good at tutorials, but if it helps anybody, I hope it does. It's take a tackle at that big sweater that's sitting in the back of your closet, unwearable, or donate it too, I guess, if you want. I just liked how this looked and I didn't want to give it up. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.